Yeah, I have a little bit of a dystopian edge right now. I'm not sure we're not headed towards a version of history that is kind of scary. Maybe we're already living in it. It seems to me that we are at a very, very important point in our history as it relates to the rise of these new technologies and the sort of creation of a multipolar world. The fact that the multipolarity of our world, in my opinion, is becoming more and more evident. And I'm not sure that we have the kind of disciplined, thoughtful people kind of taking the reins. So, whether or not this is going to be a successful experiment, our kind of effort to make it through this crucible, I mean, obviously, we'll see. I mean, hopefully, we'll see. Hopefully, we'll be around to find out. I was having a conversation recently with somebody who, there's a little bit of dystopianism, but they were coming from like, more on the right about whether or not they felt like they're kind of living at the end of an empire, and there was some shared sentiment there, like, oh, like we may not be living at the zenith of American power. And when I'm like talking about this with friends, I always talk about the 1990s as being the kind of zenith. I think post Cold War, the kind of like triumphalism of that period, it was like a wild time. And it's like there was just this sense of the world being one's oyster. America's reputation around the world was very good. We were a few decades away from Vietnam. 9/11 had not yet happened. So it was just this sort of golden, like maybe 20 years of sort of like, oh, and I guess the other thing was like, of course, at our zenith, it was the time when there was the most sort of self-flagellation by the winners of everyone kind of Rage Against the Machine being in vogue, the punk movement, the conviction that like almost all of the world's problems were America's creation. But as a result of feeling responsible for problems around the world, also finds that one attempts to fix them. And so like a lot of the kind of like cultural trends that are now kind of being pushed back against in this era began, or not necessarily began, but like in my opinion, kind of like took their biggest form during the 1990s. It was the heyday of the WTO. It was the heyday of like the IMF, the spreading of sort of like international norms, which really were like American norms around the world. So when I look back, I'm like, when I think of myself as being a 90s kid, I think of myself as having maybe lived through the peak decade of the empire, I've kind of come of age of that during that time. And I think that's really interesting. It'll be up to the historians to sort of tell us whether that's true or not. Maybe, if there are historians in the future.